I'm Chelsea Cain, and I am a thriller writer, and I am here at Prairie Lights, and I'm about to do an event, which I do every couple of years. I was born in Iowa City at a university hospital, and came back here for graduate school, so I look for any excuse I can to come back. What influenced me most was just Iowa City, was this place, because it is a place where it is not weird for people to say, I can't go out, I'm working on my novel. Like, that's not a normal thing. Like, in most places, people are, you know, they're like, that's crazy, and come out with this now. And here, you know, people say, oh, okay, sorry, we'll call you tomorrow. The question that I'm asked most often that puzzles me the most is how I can write these kind of books as a woman. I'm asked that. Not as often as I used to be, but often enough. And it is a question that, even though I'm asked it quite regularly, I've never formulated a response, because it is such a sort of mystifying question to me, and is usually asked by quite reasonable seeming people. And I get the idea is that, especially my Archie Gretchen series, which is, I have a series of 6 books, and I've now started a second series. And we'll continue then the other series once I get the second series off the ground. But that first series is, it's notable for its sex and violence. And there were lots of women, especially, who would ask that question, as if being a woman and a mother would be an obstacle to, like, writing a scene. And to me, it was like, well, I just wrote it. Like, I would write anything, like any writer would write anything. And it's a question that is, to me, so incredibly sexist, because it would not be asked of a man. And yet it would be asked by, I think, by women who would never in a million years consider themselves sexist, you know, who'd self-identify as being feminist. And we're asking it from a feminist point of view. And yet it's a ludicrous question. It doesn't have to be quiet. I need isolation, in the sense that I need people not to be asking me things. And I can go, we have this indoor playground called Playdate PDX in Portland that is like this, it's like a big cage that you can put children in, and then they play on this like 5-story gymnasium. And meanwhile, the parents can drink wine or coffee, but it's absolute chaos. You know, and it's huge. So there will be hundreds of kids and parents, and the noise in this like echo chamber is intense. But I can take my kid there and a couple other kids and put them in the cage, and then I can sit. And I've written the most horrible things in this child's gymnasium, just sitting at this little table. And I'm careful to keep my laptop screen faced in so that no child walking by is traumatized. But somehow, like that, the chaos helps me focus. As long as there aren't kids asking me for juice, you know, there are no needs. And then otherwise, I work in my office. I have an office on the 3rd floor of my house, in the attic, as other people call it. When you have a kid, there's 15% of your brain that is always just like that. It's just set aside for them. And even if they're just quietly doing their own thing, that's 15% of your brain that's there. And even like when they're, you know, they could be across the country and that 15% is taken up, but it's different when they're in the room. And I really need, like, ideally, a spread of time to work, as opposed to stealing away for 10 or 15 minutes here and there. Writing. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's the weird thing, is that it's promotion, and not this, but like the social like all the social networking. I feel like my energy goes out to like running 7 websites, right? Like all of my various social networking sites, and my actual author site, and all of the emails that come in and out, just managing the tide. And I'm always 100 messages behind. There are just there are always so many people who want something, like legitimate things that I would like to give them, but it's that sense of just it being like snowing and being out there, like trying to like shovel the walk, and that is to me so exhausting that when I can like actually get away and write something, then I feel like, oh, like okay, I can last like 2 more days on Twitter. It's sad, but like writing is like that. That's what that's what I want to do. I really would like to write books, and that is a very small part of the job now. Spiritual is a tough word because I'm an atheist, and always have been. Born and raised atheist. I'm married to a born and raised atheist, and I feel like that it is a term that comes with a lot of baggage. I think that, you know, what I was talking about before about that feeling of when you feel the work come together and lose time. I would say it's more like a form of a kind of quasi meditation, but like really on a biological level, you know, like brain chemistry, like serotonin and dopamine, as opposed to, I guess, the hand of God or some kind of the heavens opening up and angels speaking through me. That would be awesome, and I'm open to that. Dorothy Parker is a writer, or Noel Coward is a writer. Like if you have an ascot on, you're a writer. And I think that being a writer, to me, when I think of the writers in my life, and I know a lot of very accomplished novelists, you know, who are far more known and praised than I am, right? And I know a lot of writers who are far more talented than I am, and my friends who are praised and accomplished novelists, and yet who have never been published. And I think of them as being every bit the writer as that guy or I am. So it really has nothing to do with, I guess, the work on the shelf. It has to do with the engagement with the words and the story. And I say this as I'm a story and like a story-oriented writer, which I know is used to sort of dismiss a lot of genre writers, right? He's really good at writing stories. He's very story-driven. But I embrace it because that's true. Like I have stories in my head, and I want to get them out, and I have worked really hard to become just good enough as a writer to be able to tell the story. I really could have been a painter or a filmmaker, honestly. Like it's something to get the story out. But I found writing, and that's what I worked really hard at. But the words to me are in service of the story, whereas I have a lot of friends, and I think, you know, most literary writers would say that the story is in service of the words. That it's about, you know, and that to me, it's a whole different entanglement with the neurons. But that's the stuff I love to read. Like I read far more like literary fiction than I do thrillers. Like, you know, to see the way that like that mystifies me. It's so, I guess that's probably the closest I get to kind of, you know, if you want to use the word spiritual, it's reading those like sentences, those like to read Mary Gateskill or Lydia Yuknovich or, you know, like any number of poets. But the kind of prose that finds a way to talk about something that is so perfect and yet has never occurred to me in terms of language combination. I think that is amazing. And like those are the writers, frankly. I'm a storyteller.